Well, welcome back to Petrol Bay, our beginner's guide city. Over the course of several episodes, we have gone from dirt roads and single family homes and a few industrial buildings up to we now have paved roads. We've even got some high density highways. We've got some multi-family homes. We have transitioned from basic sewage and water collection to more robust and capable water and sewage. We started out with grade school and we have moved our way up to community college, which will teach more students, cost us less money, and also add to our tech level. We've got 3 oil well pumps maxed out. We are exporting oil. We have our city hall with 2 modules. So I'd say we're doing well. It doesn't look like we're getting any emergency notifications. When you are checking up on your city, as we talked about last episode, there are so many different icons, but a real good, if you're wanting just a real quick check, the happiness. We're looking for green. I do see some yellows, but for the most part, the city looks to be doing well. Another thing that's always helpful is just to take some time to go across to take a look. How are we doing with our power? How is water? And when you click on these, hover over this graph to get some actual detailed numbers. When you're looking at garbage, so I'd like to finish up my garbage collection well before the end of the day. So this is a good way of reminding yourself. So every once in a while, just start on the left and work your way across, because otherwise I would not have remembered about garbage. This is a great time to add more garbage trucks. Fire, how are we doing with fire? We seem to be doing well with fire. If we click on this, how are we doing with our health? We have 1 police station. How are we doing with education? Are we educating everybody? We're educating. We just put down the community college. Oh, we're starting to get tech level. How are we doing with, let's get rid of tech level. How are we doing with transportation? Last episode, we were at a 46-minute wait, somewhere in the 42, 46-minute wait for a bus. We're down to 32 minutes. We've got some parks in place. No rubble, no abandoned buildings. We've already checked the happiness. How are we doing as far as our jobs? Do we have available jobs? Yes, we've got available jobs. Is the city making money? Yes, the city is making money in 2 ways. It's making money from tax income, and it's also making money from our exports of oil. Approval rating 79%, and it's going up. So in just those few moments, that is how you can take the pulse of your city. So city is doing well. We are pulling oil from the ground. Now this is important to keep in mind. Oil, coal, ore are not infinite resources. Underneath you can see it's still solid black, but we are going to start to run out of oil, and we'll need to start thinking about the next phase. Do we stay in the oil industry and import, or do we use the money that we raise from oil and pivot to something else? Another way of checking is you look to see how many months supply do we have left. before you start to run out. The other thing that you want to think about is, remember I said this is a traffic simulator. So as this city continues to grow, are there potential traffic issues that we can run into, or how can we make sure that the traffic is flowing nicely? And one of the things that I look at, it's not bad now, but this neighborhood, they're going to be working their way in this direction to get to work. So one thing that we can think about is, what if we create another way? I'd like for that to curve there. Now we have another way for individuals to get to the city. If this is a good path, you'll see cars start to take it quite quick soon after I place the road. And there, look, delivery trucks. So instead of working their way all the way through parts of the city, now these delivery trucks can get out. Now we also have to start thinking about the concept that this intersection could become busy. But that's to be dealt with at a later date. We have plenty of jobs, but we also need to start working on this disparity. We need more medium wealth. So how do we make that change? Maybe we can put in some parks. Such as a soccer field or a baseball field. Maybe we do a baseball field and we do it. Let's not do it there. That's going to take up too much. It's going to affect too much of our. Look at this radius. I don't want to swing it too far. I would like for my traffic here, these are low density roads. Since we're not building anything on them, we can definitely take the density up to high density. The higher the density, the faster and more efficient traffic will flow. This is already high density. We're not building anything on this bridge. Let's make that high density. We can go medium on either side. At some point, we will probably need to place another community college. The community college can take care of about 1,000 students. So we're good there. We've got fire coverage on both ends, at two ends of the city. And if you remember, we were having some fire issues last episode. That additional fire station over here has helped to alleviate that. You're almost always going to have health issues with your industrial area. This may need, it's not full, but at some point it may get there. Let's go ahead, take care of that. Police. How are our jail cells? Okay. Now you have noticed we do not have the large, and we can't place it anyway because we need to unlock it, but we do not have need for the larger fire station. We do not have need for the hospital. We do not have need for the police precinct. Education is such a powerful tool to use. Educated Sims, they don't consume as much water. They don't consume as much electricity. They commit fewer crimes. They don't get sick as often. They don't start as many accidental fires. So if you think about all of those effects, what's happening is you're not only educating your residents, you are saving money in multiple departments throughout your city. At some point, as these individuals get smarter and more educated, we will start to see solar panels on top of these homes, which is going to be less strain on our electrical system. Our houses are starting to take on more and more of that green shade. We have some houses that are getting quite green. As the students come home from school, they're going to be depositing. That's the best way I can think of explaining it. They're going to be depositing education into the home, turning the homes more and more green. We have some homes now. We are still in the midst of a school day, and we have made that transition to a community college, but we'll have to keep an eye on some of these homes that have unenrolled students. But by and large, we're doing well. So we're looking at a city, in my mind, I would say that we're now in the mid stages of a city. As more and more students go to school, a community college, as more and more of that takes place, we start to have an influence on the tech level. So as you can see, we've got this building. If you look at it, it's under construction, but you look at the color of it, it's being affected by tech level. We have two buildings that have very high tech level, and we have two other buildings that are beginning to exhibit tech level. Although I'm trying to avoid a traffic jam, because we already have two community colleges, and I don't think that the rush of traffic would be too great, let's place another community college, because the closer the school is to the industrial area, the stronger the effect. Always make a habit when you place your community college, just your very next step should be to place a bus stop right in front of the community college. And let's see how that affects the tech level. If you think about the episodes, to me, the way it seems to work, you start out with a basic city, you get things going, it starts growing, and then at some point, and if you think about our last episode, how we were making that transition, we were getting warning signs about our sewage, we were starting to see more fires, we were starting to run into some health issues, and now that we have addressed that, a lot of those issues have subsided. Is the city ready to grow? You click here, you go to your building density. Look at that. We're starting to see some greens in our newer neighborhood. That's a good sign. That's telling you. If you look up here, petition to build processor factory approved. The city is becoming technologically stronger. So it is saying, if you want to go in the direction of electronics, you can do so because it was locked. But in order to go in the direction of electronics, you have to unlock some things. And what you need is you need to have 5 medium tech industrial buildings, and we do have 5 of them. That's another benefit of having good tech level. The other thing to keep in mind is your industrial buildings. High-tech industrial buildings, number one, do not create as much pollution. And number two, they're going to pay more in taxes. That looks like a building that's going high-tech. So we can start the process. We've got the jobs to support it. We can start changing these roads. If you want, remember, it's your city, but we can start the process of going from a low density city to more of a medium density city. With your city at this point, basically running itself, if you will. Now let's talk about some options as far as the specialization is concerned. Right now we have 3 oil wells. We're extracting oil from the ground. We're storing it. We've got a truck as we speak coming in to the city to pick up more oil. We've got a truck leaving the city. So that's a good thing, but we know that this city that cannot rely on oil forever. So a couple of options, a couple of things to think about. So we can go back to our specialization and we can take a look. So we have done enough business with oil that we have a petroleum headquarters that we can place. If we place the petroleum headquarters, we can start on the path of getting into oil refinery. And the oil that we're bringing out of the ground, instead of exporting it, we can use it and start refining it and sending that out. When we run out of oil, we will already have the refinery in place. We can start importing, and we will have already made a much larger profit. We can start importing oil. Now, another way that we can go, we have unlocked electronics. We can start the process of gradually transforming this from a oil city into an electronics city. That's another option that we can go. And if you've been watching any of my Let's Plays, you know that a lot of times my beginner city of a region, I start out with oil and then I start to transition to electronics. So that's another way to go. And if we do that route, instead of an oil headquarters, which doesn't make sense, we would be getting into an electronics HQ. So one thing that you can do is you can start that process before you get to the situation where you're completely out of oil. You can start that transition well before you run out of oil. It's up to you. But let's, for demonstration purposes, let's kind of start looking into the transition from an oil specialized city to a processor city. And then what we will start to do is we've got money saved up. We can start importing what we need, which is alloy and plastic, or we can put down a recycling plant and we can get our products that way. Our factories will be more efficient if they've got educated workers, and we've already started that process. And we're going to have a higher tech level. So these are all good things, which is why this education works so well, not only to keep down your crime and to help with fire and things like that, but it's going to help you if you're making this transition. So let's look at what we're going to need. We're going to need a processor factory. Of course, we're going to need a trade depot. There's no need of pausing just yet. Let's start with a depot. Trade depot. Let's place it right about here. We don't need freight. I don't want freight trucks. I don't want trucks coming from the industrial area. Put a sign. Now, you'll notice we cannot place the things that we need because they are locked. So how do you unlock these things? We need alloy. A couple of options. And as you can see, one of those options is a processor factory, which is what we're going to be doing anyway. So let's come over here. Electronics. You look at the cost of our processor factory, we can absorb that easily. Of course, you know me, have to have a sign. Let's put down 1, 2. Let's do it 3. It's all we need for right now. We're just gradually starting this process. At some point, we'll go from having all of these oil wells to an electronics complex. Now you'll see that alloy is unlocked. Plastic is unlocked. I don't want to import so much alloy and plastic that it hits me financially, so I'm just going to have one of each lot. Let's do one processor storage lot, or we could do another trade depot. I'm trying to decide which way I want to go, because eventually we're going to need it. Let's just do another depot. Let's get rid of that. Processors. We're going to export. Now remember, oil was 9,000 simoleons. Look at what we're going to be exporting our processors at. We have to take into account, though, we are going to be having to spend to import. Now we are starting that transition, but we're going to be making a greater profit than with the oil. But the oil allowed our city to build up a nice bank account. These are in yellow. That's fine. It's telling us that we don't have, so we've got workers, but no alloy. That's fine. It's just going to take time for that to come in. That's oil. Eventually the simulation is going to send trucks with plastic and alloy. Here comes an alloy delivery. Remember, we have a roundabout set up so they don't have to worry about, even if our city was having massive traffic issues, which fortunately we're not, but even if it were, we can easily get into this neighborhood, do what we need to do, and the trucks can get out. There's a shipment of alloy. Now what we need is plastic. Here comes plastic. While we're waiting for plastic, now a local truck. A local truck, this is our truck here, is delivering alloy. We've got alloy, now all we need is plastic. So the trucks that come from outside of the city are not our trucks. They're trucks generated by the simulation. There's plastic, and then one of our local trucks will deliver the plastic. You're more than welcome. If you want, you can add one more delivery truck, which kind of speeds things up just a bit. Not greatly. But just remember, this has no effect on the outside world, the outside deliveries. There's our plastic delivery. So now this factory has what it needs. And there's the beginnings of processors. Here comes our first truck to pick up our first processor export. This truck's going to pick up processors, and we are going to make some money, some simoleons. There he goes. Processors, 100,000 simoleons. Here is another thing to keep in mind. Our factory, we only have one factory. It's full. If you run into a situation, look at how much we have here. If you want, if you're in a situation with a city and the cost of importing is starting to outweigh, or you're having a hard time getting ahead of the game, we have what we need for right now. I'm going to use locally. That's going to stop the deliveries of alloy and plastic. But we're going to continue. We've got enough to continue to make more processors, and then we can turn on imports. We have now run out of alloy and plastic. Our processor factory is completely full of what it needs. We've got processors that are ready to be shipped out. If we click on transactions, you'll see this was when we were importing. We stopped importing and look at the exports. We've been exporting processors and crude oil, but not taking on that expense of bringing in plastic and alloy. And once again, You can put down a recycling plant and get plastic and alloy. You may not get as much, so that's also an option. But I just wanted to make it to make sure that you understood that there was a way to do this and not always take on that cost. We've got what we need for a while, and we can keep on creating and exporting. We are now at a point where it makes sense to go ahead. Let's import. Let's get those items imported. We could even get more, bring it brought in, shut it back down. I find that these two will support a processor factory. If we had an extra processor factory, we'd place one of each, and then we would put one more processor warehouse for export purposes. So you will notice under education, low skill. Manufacturing factories are complaining they can't find skilled workers. Build more schools. I find that no matter how many schools I have, a lot of times you run into that. Because if you look here, we are extremely close to all of our students being enrolled. So if we're very close to having all of our students enrolled, what do you mean build more schools? We can place down some annexes. Let's do that. Let's add on. Do we want to add on to this one, or let's add on to this one? So now that we have done that, in this city, we have 1,005 students. 922 of them are enrolled. Our capacity is well above what this city has. What I tend to do is I tend to focus on my data, which tells me that I'm educating my students. I look at my tech level. I see my tech levels going up. I know that my city is happy. So I may have an advisor telling me low skill, and I understand that. But is it something that I am concerned about? No, I don't worry about it. I'm doing my part. I'm educating the students. This continues to go up. We're filling this in with green. We're filling that in with tech level. So earlier we had talked about how we had done enough exports in crude oil where we had unlocked the petroleum headquarters. We didn't place it down because we were going to go in a different direction, but now we have done enough export business in processors to allow us to unlock the electronics headquarters. And once you unlock the electronics headquarters, it allows us to go even further in the direction of technology and electronics production. So let's go ahead and place that down. And of course, we want a sign. We have to meet certain milestones, but the two add-ons. First is the Consumer Electronics Division, and this gives us access to the Consumer Electronics Factory. So if we go back, we'll see the Consumer Electronics Factory is locked. So we need to put down the Consumer Electronics Division to unlock it. And this allows us to take the processors that we're creating and place them and use them locally and place them inside of televisions or computers. The other division is the Commerce Division. And the Commerce Division, if we place down that upgrade, it gives us the trade port. Right now we're using trade depots, but we can unlock the trade port. And once we unlock the trade port, we'll be able to put down processor, alloy, and plastic storage lots at the trade port. But now we've got some opportunities to continue down the path of electronics, because the profits of processors is not as strong as the profits of a television or a computer. But those are things that we're going to be working on. We need to do more as far as we're going to add more processor factories. We're going to watch as our oil supply starts to dwindle, and this industrial park, or specialization industrial park, will start to transform into a much more technological and computer and electronic oriented as opposed to oil. We'll place down more trade depots. Maybe we'll get into using trade ports. We still need to unlock the transportation division for trains or for shipping. But those are all things that, we can explore as we move further. But this is looking good. This is our city with not only where we're dealing with how to create and go over the basics of getting a city started, but we are also now blending in a specialization. So we'll be back for more of our updated beginner's guide to SimCity.